Thank you. Mr. Chair, at this point in time, I have 7:35. I just want to point out a couple things. We are light on members for this evening. We have a complement of 4, where 7 is usually preferred and allowed. So at any point in time up until the vote, the applicant can ask for a table to the following meeting, depending on whatever they're reading the room or whatever they are. But I just want to give you a heads up with that. So that's what you have for the evening. Mr. Chair, the floor is yours.
Yep, did you all catch that?
We did.
Okay, all right, thank you. I was gonna raise that too.
Okay.
Thanks, Hank. So call to order, meeting of the City of Huntington Woods Zoning Board of Appeals, Monday, September 9th, 2024. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. That was 4. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and we do not have minutes, so I'm looking for a motion to defer.
I will make a motion to defer the approval of the August 12th minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Right.
you.
On to the one appeal on the agenda, previously postponed from August 12th, 2024, from Michael Willoughby on behalf of the Berman family for the following variance at 1300 Victoria, 40-4.03, one family district, schedule of regulations to exceed the maximum house size by 737 square feet for a total of 4,292 square feet, where 3,555 square feet are allowed.
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification there, 3,555 is what's there now. The house is oversized a bit now.
Okay.
737 is the entire total to get to the 4292, and that legitimizes the whole thing.
Say that, I'm sorry, Hank. Can you say
Okay, so
again?
that legitimizes the whole thing. So the 4292, they're over now.
What is it now?
Now it's 3816, right? Is that what it says?
It's 35, yeah, so I mean, what they have is 3555 is what's allowed. They're at 38 and change right now. The total that they're asking for, the 4292, the 737 encompasses what they're already over at this point in time. So that legitimizes the entire thing.
Right. I don't want to get too off procedure, but so they're over by about 300 square feet now.
Correct.
Where did that extra 300 square feet come from? Was that a variance? Was that?
It was there at the time of this. There might have been a previous variance, but I was unable to find it.
Okay. I turn it over to the applicants.
Thank
If
you.
you could stand over by the microphone.
Well, they actually have a microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's fine. Yep.
They're the only ones here tonight.
Sorry.
Will we address previous variances? Not that we're addressing it right now, was there any setback variance before?
On this?
Yeah,
No,
okay.
not that I'm aware of.
So is the thought that previously it came through and it was
And it was,
conforming at that time?
at that time, it was either conforming or a variance was granted at that point in time.
Can I,
Sorry.
before Nancy starts?
Go ahead.
I'm Michael Willoughby. Not only are there no setback variances that we're in need of, also the lot coverage, we are still under the lot coverage. So it's just the.
Currently or with what you're asking for?
Even what we're asking for, we're still under lot coverage.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, hi. First of all, thank you so much for being here. I'm Nancy Berman. I live on 13,000 Victoria, and I've been in the home for approximately 18 years. So I'm the second homeowner. So when you were even asking, I'm like, I didn't even know that it was, when I started this, a little bit over, because I wasn't the original homeowner. So, and the home, when I purchased it, was about 10 years old. So the area that we are requesting for this variance is my outdoor patio. So currently, there is a patio outside and a roof that extends over it. So we're not, adding on a room or anything that didn't exist. What I want to do is just enclose it so I could use that space year-round with the glass walls that I could open in the summer and be able to use that space year-round as a dining room. Currently, my dining room, the way my home is designed, It's, one of those dining rooms that you could fit who you could fit inside, but it doesn't go into like a living room. It was fine when my kids were younger and I had a lot of people. I put the kids in the kitchen and, we sat in the adults in the dining room, but I have grown children now. And I cook often, we observe the Sabbath, and this past Friday night, I had 18 people for dinner, and every week I have to figure out where I'm fitting everybody. And I have a large home, but it's just I wanted to fit everyone in one space. And when I thought of, I'm like, I could just enclose my patio, which is behind my house, right off of my kitchen. It's already the roof, we have a roof already, we've got the ground, it's just a glass enclosure we want, which would really nobody else would notice it, because the people behind me, we have trees barricading my house and their house. I don't see their house, they don't see my house. I have neighbors on both sides, but the house is set back, so they really can't see in. But I have letters, which I will share, from both my adjacent neighbors in support of this project. One of them even came over, went through all the plans. I'm friendly with both, and they're happy for this to happen. They, if anything, they think it'll, increase the value, which is always a good thing for the neighborhood. But really, the only people that will notice it will be in my home. And so because currently the roof is a little bit shorter than the patio, that's the only area that needs to be extended to fully cover it, to put the glass walls. But that is pretty much what I'm requesting, just so I could enjoy my home for many more years to come and be able to use it for my family as it's growing, and for years to age in place in my home. And that's pretty much it. And Michael could go into more details of the actual plans, but do you have any questions for me?
Joe, Rick, any questions at this point?
Okay,
Go ahead.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It seems like a big ask, 700 square feet. But in reality, because the roof exists, because the porch exists, and we want to just go to the edge of the existing porch, we're physically only adding 236 square feet. And it's just around the perimeter of the existing roof, 3 sides. And I think it looks like you have control of the...
Yeah, do you want me to change it?
Yeah, there, perfect, thank you. So in this map, the room we're talking about is on the top, near the top of the page. And you can see that it's hatched in one direction, which represents the existing roof. And then there's like a cross hatch, a series of X's that's a little darker. And that's the little sliver that goes around the 2 sides and the back. Could we move to, could we move to the existing exterior elevation?
The elevation?
Yeah. So this is what it looks like today from the back. And you can see that the roof, the room we're talking about is there's 3 peaks there. It's the middle one.
Yep.
And you can see that roof is not quite as wide as the porch. It's like a couple of feet narrower. And I think actually architecturally, it's a little bit of an awkward shape. It looks like it's too tall for the space that it is occupying. If we could go to the next slide. This is what it would look like with the roof extended. And you can see that the scale of this roof becomes much more appropriate with the house. So architecturally, even if neighbors could see it, it would be a big improvement to what's there today. The glass in the center there is basically a product, I don't know if you're familiar with the term nanowall, but it's glass panels that we could open up, and so that whole middle section could just be wide open like it is today. So I think it's just a very small addition to accomplish a really big goal. And so we hope that you can see it our way. And again, there's no other variances that we need. So we'd be open to any questions.
Am I looking at this correct, that it's current, if you could go back, Hank, to like the bird's eye view? Yep. Currently, it's kind of shaped like a square on this drawing, right?
The roof is, yeah.
And then you're asking for it to be, not only to be enclosed, but also to be extended.
Right, so it's like a elongated octagon.
Right.
Yeah, so where you see the darker sort of hatching that's going around the space, that's the new expansion.
Is it possible to do it just with the existing space and not add any? And Hank, I guess, where does that put us?
Well, we've noticed for more. If they were to ask for less, you can approve less.
Yeah,
You just can't approve more than what's asked for.
If we could go to the two more, or next slide, I think, which is the floor plan. So what you can see pretty clearly is the outline of the porch. And the room that touches the porch on the left is the kitchen. And so it's a very natural access to go from the kitchen to the back porch. If we didn't extend that, then it would be, you'd go outside to get into the dining room. And then we would balance it off on the right-hand side, just so the aesthetics really work well.
I currently already have like my living room in the middle of the room has doors that go into the patio. My kitchen goes into the patio. It's almost a more natural fit than my current dining room, which is in the front of the house that I have to like walk to get to. So
the 236 square feet is really the extra rounded, okay.
Yeah.
Get it.
which nobody but anyone, unless you come in my backyard, can see it. Because even like my neighbors, like they'd have to like walk to the back of their property and then like turn around and go like this to even see it. So, which I am happy, would you like, I have letters from my neighbors, would you?
Did we get to anything in the packet here?
I'm sorry?
They may be there, these were
The letters
letters.
The neighbor's letters? No.
Here, I'll.
If she's got them, I would love a copy too for the
Yes.
record.
Here's one from each of my adjacent neighbors.
Thank you.
Hank, I have a question for you. Because they got an existing roof,
Yes.
if they just put the glass around the existing roof, would we still require them to come to here for
As soon as it
variance?
becomes conditioned space, it becomes square footage to the house.
Yeah.
Even
So
though
that's the difference.
So that's what I wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
The threshold is, it's like
It's
climate
livable
controlled,
space. Right, livable space.
enclosed, livable space. Okay.
If it would be the pleasure of the chair, I can go through what I've.
Yeah,
got.
go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah,
And then, if you have any questions of any of us. So basically, there's a couple things that I want to go through here. I'm going to go through the standards that it has to meet real quick. And then I want to go back to the architectural design of this. So, again, we know that the square footages, and we know what they're asking for. We also know the additionals that they're asking for in order to bring the roof out over the top, and I'll address that in a minute. But one of the first things that you look at is you look at the four main criteria, where the special or unique conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the lot, structure, or building involved, which are not generally applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. So when you take a look at this, again, they're making their proofs, and they're looking at that the houses that exist isn't cohesive to the lifestyle and the way that they live and use their property. The lot maximum house size were calculated taking a lot into consideration when they did the maximum house sizes for these lots. Mr. Willoughby's calculations are correct and have been verified. And again, the request for 737 total square feet is more than allowed. The concept of needing it, again, has to be explained to your satisfaction. So you have to determine that the reasons for wanting this are acceptable, and that would be the first standard. 2, the general variance will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the general welfare. I've had 2 calls. One was just informational, they just wanted to know what was going on, and the other was not opposed, and now we have 2 other letters in favor of, which we did not have prior to that. So we have 3, 4, and 1 non-committal that didn't really have an opinion one way or another. 3, the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. This one's particularly difficult. Your determination would be focused on whether this is a want versus need situation. The house is significantly larger in size than most in the area. However, their condition that they're looking at, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that while the house may be bigger, it's not configured in a manner that's conducive to their lifestyle. So they want to adjust that and have the larger space. You have to determine whether that's a want versus a need, whether it's a legitimate request. 4, a literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance, and that the variance is the minimum necessary. Again, you may choose to look whether the circumstances explained by the applicant warrant some relief. While the house is already larger than most in the neighborhood and would create a 4,292 square foot house, the point also comes in is that this is also one of the, if not the largest lot in the neighborhood. So they have a bigger lot to work with. So you'd have to take that and kind of see where all this falls for you. Oh, I do want to go back to this over here, and I want to show what's been done with the design. So what they've done here is they've taken the area that's already defined. So I'm going to go through some architectural stuff here. So this is already defined. All Michael's design is he's simply enclosing the area that's there, and he's expanding to enclose all the area that's there. When you take a look at this, that comes into play. So what he's doing is he's also expanding the roof that's there. So how is he doing that? You see the area that he's got in over here, and the patio as it was always designed as a primary focal point for the backyard. If you take a look at the doorways that exist here and here, it was always designed with the idea in mind that that would be an easily accessible space and would become part of a lifestyle, be it if it's indoor and outdoor or outdoor space. So then I want to take a look at this right here. This now is where he's going with it. So you can see that the space is here, the outdoor stairways. It's going to maintain the same function, but it's going to be actual living space. It is conditioned, it will be part of the house, so it will be over the maximum house size. It's going to be up to you to decide if those limits are something that you're willing to budge on. This right here is the back as it sits right now. Mr. Willoughby's analysis of taking a look at it and seeing that it doesn't quite fit with that may be accurate. If you take a look at the trim around the other ones, which has a crown type of detail on the outsides, and you take a look at what they have here with a more square detail on the back portion of this, you can see that the two don't match. I'm going to go to another area here. This right here, if you take a look at the design here, which now incorporates a crown type of step moldings on the back of that, you see that it also matches perfectly with the roof on this side and matches perfectly with the roof on this side. So what's happened here is this has been expanded and also incorporated the same detail that the other two roofs have. So architecturally, that's a match. Now, the other point is that it's still taller and you're calling out difference and it balances out because it's the middle of this. But this type of roof and this right here, the detail that was here has been designed to match the outside of the house. The other point, in fact, because this is a rear of the house addition, it has several criteria that it has to meet not to go to the planning commission as well. And this meets those. Basically what you have is brick, which is the same exact material that's on the house, and you have glass. So that this as it sits right here would not go to the planning commission. It would go to you, and then he'd go to permit from this. So that would be, you know, I mean, he'd obviously supply us with construction grade drawings, but this would be where he would go with that. So those are just some things to take a look at. And this is the other side of the architecture of the house here. This is the existing terrace here, so you can kind of see how it looks like from a side elevation. And this right here shows the proposed enclosure and how it would be here. So again, if you take a look at this right here and this right here, what you're seeing is that you see that this detail now matches this significantly better than it ever did on the original elevations. So having said that, and taking it back to the space that you have over here, I certainly am available to answer any questions that you might have, as I'm sure Mr. Willoughby is. If there's any questions, certainly feel free to ask. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Hank. At this time, I'm going to open it up to public participation on this appeal. Seeing and hearing nobody, I'm going to close public participation on this appeal. And before I open it up to the board, just want to remind you one more time, since there's only 4 of us here, you need a unanimous decision. And if at any time before we vote, you want to table this to the next meeting, you're welcome to request that, and we'll grant that. So with that, I open it up. Joe, any comments or questions?
I'm still struggling over a want versus a need. I understand that you've got a huge house, and I understand that during holidays you've got people, but that's pretty common for all the houses in Huntington. When you have people over, it's tight. So I can't understand exactly what's so unique about your situation that would require this.
So it's not for holidays, it's for pretty much every weekend. I observe the Sabbath, and so it means like Friday night, we have big dinners. I kind of joke it's like Thanksgiving every single weekend. So this is an often thing. This isn't like, you know, just like what normal, you know, for holidays where you know, you put in people in different tables and go in the basement. It's often. And so what I used to do sometimes is have to go in the basement, but I have aging parents. They can't go down the stairs in the basement. So what I'm finding is it's not so much even a want, because frankly, I kind of don't, like, this is a big investment. And I have a large home, and so it's not that I want. For me, it feels like it's gotten to a point of every week I have to figure out where am I going to put everybody. So for me, it does, like, I have this beautiful home, and I'm in Huntington Woods, and I love being here, but every weekend I have to figure out, okay, well, I can't squeeze them here, I can't put them here. Like, I have that all the time. So for my lifestyle, here it does become challenging. And so finally, when I thought about it, I never thought about this. I was like, wow, I have this patio, and it's right off my kitchen. I already have the roof there. This would be just like, you know, in a sense for me, like almost like a no-brainer to be able to stay here and to have this larger dining room for, you know, so I could use my house in the way that I could enjoy it the most. And, you know, sometimes I have meetings in my home, or I open it for charities or different events, and now I could actually, you know, have the space. But it's, like you said, it's not a holiday thing for me, it's a weekly thing for me.
I'd like to go through some of these questions, the ones that Hank just went through. So what are the unique conditions about the land? Hank, you said the lot size is larger.
The lot size is larger than most all in the neighborhood.
What is the zoning district?
They're going to be R1C there.
And what's the lot width?
Let's see what they've got here. They don't have it on here, but they're showing 9.9 on one side yard, 9 on the other. Michael, do you have something with dimension for him? I show the house at 62 wide, and the house at 63.19 deep. But I don't have it sitting on the lot. But your lot calculations are correct.
Right, the calculations are correct, so the square footage is spot on. But in terms of the width, I'm not entirely sure. 60, 70, 80, it looks like it's 100 or 100 plus, 105, something like that.
Is that wider than,
Then in most in that neighborhood, yes.
okay, the square footage calculation includes the lot bonus, correct?
Yeah, it includes what's there. The square footage includes what's there, what was allowed. And at the time, they're less than the 30% that they would be allowed.
What is the square footage that extra that we're allowing based on the lot bonus? The square footage of the lot gives them a square footage bonus.
Right, no, I see where you're going with that. Let me see here.
I'm just trying to determine how
Yeah, no,
far over.
I get, yeah, let me see if I can figure that out for you real quick. Or actually, if you wanted to come back to that, maybe take the other questions, if the chair would call a recess, I can get the actual information for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to go through everybody else's questions and see if there's any more, and then I can
No,
look that up for him?
I prefer to let Hank go ahead and do his calculation so we can.
You want me to do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, if
So we'll
it's-
take a quick recess.
Okay, so give me a couple minutes and I'll go take a look and I'll get the lot dimensions for you.
Go ahead and start it. Thanks, you.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, based on some quick calculations, I provided you with an actual dimension of the lot. I've also provided you with the Oakland County residential property profile, and I've also provided you with the valuation report, the 2024 valuation report. So here's where we're at with this. The lot's 12,740 square feet, which give them a lot bonus of 625. So the thing is that in the R1C district, you're allowed 2,500 by right. You can pick up another 600, okay, by architectural and design bonuses on the planning commission. So that would put you at 3,100, okay? On top of that, you can have the 625 lot bonus, and the reason it's 625 is that's the cap. So you're at 3,725, give or take a few feet. You're still short of what they have now. So regardless of how that happened or what that happened is even if you use the new formula, which I assume Rick was trying to figure out if they could get some benefit by using that as a basis for looking at this, you're still in approximately the same boat. You're still over by so many square feet. The thing that they don't have, that's assuming all the architectural bonuses with the understanding that Mr. Willoughby's design is about as good as I can get it, to the point where we would ask that the planning commission go ahead and approve those for the maximum sizes for that. Some of those wouldn't apply because it's just a simple back room. So having said that, I think what you're going to have to look at for this is if you're inclined to approve it, you're going to have to look at it that based on the initial architecture and the architectural design of the house, that the design does not favor the utilization of that space for the highest and best use, which would be to enclose it as what they're proposing. What their contention is that that would be the highest and best use and allow them that. Their contention would also have to be is that based on the fact that there's interior walls there, they couldn't take that space and revert it to the inside, that space would then take away some of the features that made the house desirable in the first place on the first floor, and that this is a natural flow to get them from point A to point B where they need to be. Having said that, that's what you're going to have to kind of buy into if you're going to take a look at this and say that this is something that I feel I can get behind. Rick, did those numbers answer questions for you, or did you have something else that you wanted to? Because I didn't want to usurp your turn.
What is the lot size right now?
12,740. And if you can take a look at it, you can kind of see based on what the other lots are around there, that's a really good sized lot, 162 wide. That's width on that lot is consistent with an R1A zoning. But it's R1C because most of the lots on that block are not that size.
What is the bonus per square foot of extra lot?
Like 9 square feet, I believe it was. It came out to not to exceed 625, which was the bigger number, so I took that and using it for them. That's the maximum bonus that they can get for lot size.
In R1A, what's the maximum house size? If we were trying to, I know it's not in that district, but
it would be
apples to
like,
apples.
I think it's 4,100 square feet, something
It would
like
be
that area.
R1A.
Yeah,
And those are
With-
12,000
with-
square
with-
foot lots.
Well, you wouldn't get the lot size bonus because you already.
you go down to 15%.
Yeah, you could.
So you might run afoul of your lot
Standard is
coverage.
3,600
Yeah.
up to 4,200 with character bonus, up to 4,350 with lot size bonus, 4,950 if you were able to combine everything, but you'd have to have a massive lot.
Yeah, this doesn't qualify for that.
So what I'm trying to get at is the lot unique? That it's not really conforming to a majority of the lots in that zoning district?
It doesn't conform to the majority of the lots in the R1C district. It conforms to zoning of lots in a higher zone district. And then, the other point that, if you want to use that for rationale, which is a good thought, you also run into the thing that once you get into the R1B, your lot coverage goes from 30% to 25%. When you get to R1A, it goes from 25% to 15%. So there's other issues if that you may want to consider if you take a look at that. But, Rick, your premise for this is that, is the lot being held to a scale that's more extreme in the R1C district, even though it's significantly larger because it's capped, then that would be what you would want to hang your hat on in order to vote in favor of this. Or you may choose to do so.
Okay, so there might be something there.
There could be, if that's what you want to,
All right, item 2, the detrimental to the general welfare, I think we've addressed that.
Yeah, I haven't received I haven't received any objections to this. And you have 2 letters that Ms. Berman has produced from her neighbors. Plus, I've had 2 phone calls that I'm aware of, and none of them has. And I would have got the phone calls because Francesco's out of town.
So any special condition circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant.
That's going to be your hardest one of the bunch. You would have to take a look at that, and you would have to say that if the applicant didn't design the house as it sits right now, the applicant didn't allocate the room sizes and spaces as it sits right now, but the house was like, I want to say it was like 20 years ago. This was almost like right when I first got here.
30 years ago.
Huh?
It had to be like 30 years ago because I've been in almost 20.
Okay, so like 20 years ago. So did you rebuild, did you rebuild the house?
No. So the house was, I've done some interior work, but nothing structurally on the outside, so.
Okay, I just remembered somebody with a different name.
Kleinfeld?
Yeah.
Because I went back to my maiden name.
Oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right.
same owner.
Okay.
I just changed my name.
Okay. So, they've been there for a long time with this. You'd have to kind of take a look at it and say, well, the house existed when you got it, correct?
Yes.
So the rooms were what they were, the needs of the family changed, the use of the house didn't change, it's still a single-family residence, but the actual way that family uses their house changed. If you could get behind something like that, then the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. You'd have to buy into something like that in order to make that argument work to meet standard number 3.
It isn't use of the house, the actions of the applicant. I understand.
That's
I
what you
understand
have
that
to
uses
decide.
change
Yes,
for various reasons.
right. But that's what you would have to decide, because the issue then becomes, you can take the tack that says, well, they're asking for it, the house is this square footage, so it has to be an action of the applicant. Or you can say, okay, uses of houses change, the original design of that doesn't make it so that they can use this in a fashion that would be consistent with other houses that size, and you can kind of make that argument. But other than that, you'd have to come to terms with that one yourself. Rick, did you have anything else that you wanted to go on that question, or?
No, that's.
Or they can chip in on this too. I don't
Yeah, feel free to check.
I don't want to monopolize. I'm just throwing out some suggestions or thoughts.
Do you mean for us to chip in?
If you have
Yeah,
something,
you guys,
don't
yeah,
feel
absolutely.
obligated
If you've
to,
got
but
a,
I mean, just,
this is meant to be
Thank you.
orderly, but it's
Okay.
still an open
I
discussion.
didn't want to.
but it's still Huntington Woods.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like Hank said, I didn't build the house, so it didn't, it had lots of the features that I enjoy, but the dining room was actually always an issue for me, and it's just become harder as my kids have gotten older, and every week I kind of find myself in this situation. Here I have this big, beautiful home, but I can't use it the way I need to be able to, the way our lifestyle is with, every weekend having a big family dinner with friends, and we can't all fit comfortably in our dining room. So, and because we observe the Sabbath for holidays, our families, we don't drive on the Sabbath, so people stay over, and so we end up having a lot of people. And so the house is great for all of those things, except we can't for the dining room. So this isn't actually from it's not like somebody's gonna drive by, nobody will notice anything other than we will notice this. I actually spoke to other neighbors behind us as well that were in full support. I could have, if we come back here, I'm happy to fill the room with all of our friends from across the street behind who I spoke to who are all in support. The space in a sense is already there. It's just enclosing it with a glass enclosure to make it usable so I feel like I could stay here forever and, enjoy the house.
Rick, do you have anything else to throw out?
Well, in
What?
general, you can probably tell that I'm trying to figure out if there's a way through the ordinance and going through these questions to say that this meets the criteria. I'm having a tough time getting to that level. We have a maximum house size for a reason, and although it's somewhat of a small ask, because it's already paved, it's already partially enclosed, we do have the limits for a reason, and we have to meet these certain criteria to exceed those limits. And I don't think we're saying we've got a legitimate reason for all four of these questions, even on the basis of the first part, unique circumstances. Even if we played games and massaged the numbers with the math of the square footage, you're still not there. Even if we said you weren't capped out at the 625 max bonus and we just kept going up at 1 square foot per 9 square feet of lot size, you still don't get there. So I don't see how we make that math work to meet, even at a baseline, the question 1 here on unique circumstances of the property.
I mean, one of the issues is most homes that are my size home, they have more of a layout of the more open dining room, go into the living room. It's less people are building homes with the set dining room space. And I'm if I ever were to resell this house down the road, it will be a difficult thing because people want that bigger dining room space. And I just think it's going to increase, it'll be better for the home overall. And I understand what you're saying, but it's one of those things that if you came and walked around, it really it affects nobody other than making the home more usable. There's nobody that's going to see it. It's going to be less. We'll make it easier for the next, hopefully I'll live there till I'm old and, possibly till I die, but the next family that lives there are most likely going to want, that kind of space because that's just how people live and entertain these days. That's how most homes are built. And again, I didn't build a house, so I just didn't, I thought probably down the road I could figure something out, but internally it was inside the house, it was hard to structurally make those changes, and that's why I was looking to just, in my mind, because I didn't know all these small rules, it was like so not a big deal, because the roof, we have a roof already, we have a floor already. It's like literally just like looking for like a glass enclosure. It's already attached to the house. It's not, it's like nothing that nobody is going to notice at all.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, in order to be consistent, Rick, you wanted to go to number 4 too, I assume?
Yes.
You went through the first 3. So 4 is a literal interpretation of the provisions of this ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same district under the terms of this ordinance, and that the variance is the minimum necessary. So while we took a look at that, I had a comment in my memo to this, there's another thing too that you may want to take a look at. In that particular area of the city, and she alluded to not driving in that, I assume that you're Orthodox?
Yes.
Okay. So in Judaism, there's different levels of practice. There's me, conservative, there's Reform, which is somewhere else, and then there's Orthodox, which would be stricter than I would practice. But they do have rules and regulations that they can't do. They can't drive on Saturdays, which she alluded to the fact that she has a lot of people staying at her house. You may or may not want to take that into consideration, because as a result, that would help to explain the larger amount of people in her house and the need for perhaps a larger space for a dining area. Our zoning ordinance doesn't take into consideration religious practices or freedoms, but that may be a little bit of a background that might have an influence or might not. Again, it was a choice to buy the house. It's a choice how you live your lifestyle, and it's a choice as to where you live. But I'll point out that a lot of the people that are Orthodox Jewish that live anywhere in the city of Huntington Woods typically would walk to shul. So there's a limit as to where you can be in Huntington Woods and still be able to walk to shul. In other words, where I live, it'd be particularly hard, in Huntington Woods, it would be particularly hard to get to the shuls because they're farther away. So, but I'm not of the level where, I drive on Saturday, so they choose not to because of their level. So other than that, I just wanted to throw that out there because that may play into an effect that, as to explains as to why the need for a larger space is there. That doesn't mean that everybody that's Orthodox Jewish in the neighborhood should get a much larger house, but it may pertain to her particular situation. I don't know that, and I don't mean to speak out of turn on that.
That is 100% accurate.
But that's kind of how I was reading the situation.
Yeah. I mean, most people, like I just use their dining room like 3 times a year. I mean, it's every weekend. It becomes a struggle for me figuring out where to eat.
So other than that, that's all I had on 4, Rick, that I didn't get a chance to say before. So if there's any other questions, I'm sure that David or myself could take a whack at it anyway.
I'm sorry, Rick, did you have anything else?
I'm all set, thank you.
So I'm open to somehow like threading the needle to approve this, and like a little bit skeptical if we can do it and still like be fulfilling our role here, which is to grant variances, right? When the code, which is applied to different size and shape houses and lots, doesn't make sense in practicality, and I completely understand how it seems like here's a case where it's like your private property and it's tucked away in the back of the house, and on the one hand, and the other, there's the code is here, and we have the ability to toss it and also like the responsibility to, to work through these criteria for it. And it's hard to see how, on the other hand, right, the other side would be like, you have a house that's already non-conforming and you're not in trouble for that, but it's very big and you have a problem, which it's a good problem because you have this, you open up your home every week and break bread and light the candles. And right now, the solution that you're pursuing is more enclosed, climate-controlled space, and it's it's butting up against the ordinance here. And again, well, first, you need 4 yeses, so you might decide to come back next month, or it might just be back to the drawing board. So I kind of asked this earlier, but they could extend the roof and just not enclose it with glass? Would that?
They could extend the roof
Okay.
because they're under their lot coverage, but that's not really gonna help them if they can't enclose it.
Right, I was just
Yeah.
trying to understand what,
Cold here in the winter.
yeah, a little
So-
bit, a little bit.
Be a little chilly, yeah.
So,
I would love to be able to just keep,
sure.
but it's not Florida.
Right. So that's, I don't think there's, right now, we've identified a path to
Right.
to yes. Speaking only for myself and only tentatively, because we're not voting yet. I do think this one is, you can squint and almost make it work, and then you contextualize it a little bit, and it's harder to find that rationale.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? Oh,
Sure.
sorry.
You go ahead.
Oh, I mean, so if I plan to come back, what, if all my neighbors support it, if I get everybody behind me, who's, to bring in letters, will that make any difference here? Is that,
That's the of the 4 prongs.
That's not-
Not the one. It's
It's good that if you had adverse communications, that would
that would hurt. Right.
hurt.
Someone's
Like,
why
the
is
fact
this
that you have no
Right.
adverse communications is a good thing.
It's more so of like, what's the basis where this particular set of circumstances justifies disregarding and particularly that last one about how it's the minimum necessary. Like, we get stuck on that sometimes of like, well, the minimum necessary is nothing, right? Is 0, right? Or negative 200 and 300 and something like that. Because, ultimately you have a floor plan problem. Like, you don't have,
Yeah.
it's not that you don't have enough space or that you don't have, a covered way to get from your house to your garage or something where the slope is too, things like that. It's just the way that the first floor of your home is laid out is suboptimal for what you want to do. And
it's just not conducive to our
right,
lifestyle.
and that just isn't isn't the threshold for a variance to the code.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like the space is already there, but the fact
That's why I
that
felt
it goes to cover it, on the one hand, it sounds like a big ask, and then if you think about it further, maybe it's not as big of an ask, but I'm not sure that we've met the criteria here. We have we have a duty to sort of ensure that it's met, whether it's, some appeals are more difficult than others, and others we do have to thread the needle. I'm just not sure that they're there here.
Mr. Chair, if I could, you may want to take this opportunity to ask the applicants if they wanted to just table this
Sure.
until the next meeting.
Sure.
By doing so may, and again, we can make no promises to who's going to attend and who's not going to attend, but it may give them more board members. It also may give them an opportunity to take your comments into consideration and perhaps maybe revise something. Having said that, that would be up to the applicant and the chair as to whether or not there was a motion or something that would be forthcoming in that measure.
Yeah, sure. So you asked, like, if you come back and you asked about your neighbors, the other thing that would happen is hopefully we'd have 7. The maximum people we'd have sitting here is 7. The maximum votes we'd have here is 7. So, if you'd have 3 more people to try to convince, but you'd only have to convince 4 of the 7, right? Tonight you have to convince all 4 of us. So there's that difference too. So
Thank you.
just to add.
We
add
will,
some
we will
context there.
table it. 'cause-
Do you want to table it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
As we try to figure out a way to go forward.
Yep.
So Nancy can get what she wants. Is there any thought to compromising the amount of the ask? Does that benefit us, or is it?
I mean, we have had ones where, like, in real time, we sort of rolled up our sleeves and took 70 feet off of here and kind of did it on the, on 1 foot, right? Again, the only, and I have probably some of the least, like, technical background in this, but, an alternative that I could see seeming more like the minimum necessary would be like enclosing under what you have right now, which might sound like a bad idea, right? Because you'd be like encroaching, but then when it's like, it's the, see how it's sort of concave, right? Like if you just said, oh, we need to go across so that we can just sort of like have that existing space not,
It would
not.
defeat the purpose of what I'm trying to.
Okay,
do.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, that would fall more into where we're trying to find, like, okay, that's minimum necessary because of what's already here, and then for the X months out of the year that it's, nicer out, it opens out onto the porch. But, the difference of like the existing roof and the octagonal part, I don't know if that.
so that
Really
is an
slick.
example of something, I'm not saying we would do it here, but that is an example of something where we've done it like, where it's been like, we're asking for this much, and we'll say, okay, you take that much. And like, we literally say, like, you're asking for 737 feet here,
Mr. Chair,
we could give you, like, we've done that before, where we would give like a lower number. Go ahead, Hank.
if I could just make a suggestion, rather than kind of proffer what each member would and would not approve, which I would
Right.
caution the
Yeah.
board not
That's
to
fair.
do, my suggestion would be is to motion to table it, let Ms. Berman and Mr. Willoughby work with staff to come up with perhaps a palatable idea for them. By tabling it, it still goes out. We don't have to renotice it because it's already here. If they come back with something under that, that's fine. It doesn't have to be renoticed. It would have to be renoticed only if they went over what was already here and they're already asking for the maximum. So my suggestion would be is that if they're in favor of the table, to have somebody make a motion to table, you, if it's the pleasure of the ZBA, approve the table, the next regular meeting, and that would give time for Mr. Willoughby and Ms. Berman and myself to take a look at it and see if there isn't a better mousetrap that will help fulfill her requirements and also be palatable to the zoning board of appeals. That way it comes from this side of that table instead of that side of the table.
Thanks, Hank.
Do you agree with the table?
Double confirming, you want us to take a motion, take a vote to table it?
Yes.
Oh.
Make a motion to table?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. Any other business, Hank?
At this point in time, Mr. Chair, we do not have any other business, and apparently now we definitely will have a meeting next
That was
week.
my next question.
Well, we have
It's
this,
not on high holidays, right?
so.
I'm looking for, public participation. Seeing and hearing nobody, I'm gonna close public participation and look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much, I appreciate it.